We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Hamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Mollett,
Aye.
Neal, Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Forsky.
Aye.
All members are present except for Neal.
Thank you so much. At this time, we will be led in prayer by Councilman Freeman. Immediately following our prayer, we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask if Councilwoman Connor will be so kind to lead us.
Okay, thank you, President Somerville. We'll pray together. Father, we come to you tonight confessing that you are good and that ultimately our desire is that your kingdom would come, your purposes would be accomplished, and believing that those purposes truly are the best for each and every one of us. And God, this evening we ask that you would try our hearts, that we might, first of all, even before we would know ourselves, that we would know you. And we thank you, God, for the position that you've called us to. We pray in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. At this time, the minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections? Councilman Fusco?
Motion to approve the minutes of the previously held meeting.
So we have a motion. Can we get a second? Councilman Sworsky?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco, Hamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Mollett,
Aye.
Neal,
Apologize. I'm going to abstain. I don't know what we're voting on.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
The minutes passed 12-0 with one abstention by Neal.
Thank you. Before you, you have the consent agenda. Motion to approve. Councilman Fusco?
Approval of the consent agenda.
Can we get a second? Councilman McKittrick?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor, Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Hamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
I'm sorry, I have a little bit of delay, so I'm not sure. McKittrick,
Aye.
thank you. Mollett,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We do have two public hearings scheduled for this evening. Clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, May 10th, 2021, during the council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 280 Seldon Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Sheila Hammonds is requesting permission to construct a 28 feet by 24 feet detached garage at this property. The proposed garage is to be situated in the backyard south of the dwelling. The new structure will be constructed to a height of less than 15 feet with a front elevation containing a single garage door and a man door. It would replace a small 14.5 feet by 22.4 foot garage. The structure will be of wood frame construction color with a light green shake siding and shingles on a gabled roof. The structure will also have gutters and downspouts. The requested garage constructed at that location on the property would not be out of character for the neighborhood. It would be for residential purposes only. It would add value to the property without impacting neighboring properties. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. The petitioner, Mrs. Sheila Hammonds, is not online with us this evening. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Like to pull the committee to refer this item. Samples,
Aye.
Gamer,
Aye.
Swirsky,
Aye.
Baylor.
Aye.
Thank you. The report of the committee is to refer this item.
Thank you so much. This item will be referred.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, May 10th, 2021, during the council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use for a rooftop sign at 1670 Firestone Parkway.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Bridgestone America's Tire Operations is requesting permission to relocate the iconic Firestone sign from its original location atop the Firestone Plant 1 building at 1200 Firestone Parkway and install it on the roof of their Advanced Tire Production Center at 1670 Firestone Parkway at the corner of East Wilbeth and Firestone Parkway. Bridgestone no longer owns the Plant 1 building, and they are in the process of relocating race car tire production from the Plant 1 building to their Advanced Tire Production Center. The Firestone sign had been deteriorating, and it was removed from the roof of Plant 1 in December of 2020. It's currently being refurbished. The sign is made up of individual letters mounted to a new steel structure. The sign's approximately 11 feet high by 90 feet wide. The supporting steel structure is 20 feet high. The sign's existing neon lights will be replaced with energy-efficient LED lamps. The Office of Integrated Development believes it is appropriate for the sign to be relocated to the current Bridgestone tire production facility in the neighborhood, keeping this important part of Akron's industrial heritage in the city. The Urban Design and Historic Preservation Commission reviewed the proposed sign relocation on April 6th this year. They approved the project with the condition that the lighting level on the sign be monitored to ensure that it does not negatively impact nearby residences. Office of Integrated Development, Planning staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to that condition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Antonucci. We do have two individuals who have signed up to speak in favor of this ordinance, Jill Pfeiffer Ward and Kara Adams. Can you hear me?
You can.
Wonderful. I'm just going to ask that you be sworn in by a member of our law department, and then you can bring forth comments.
Okay, with those wishing to make comment, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Jill, would you like to start?
Sure. Just a little bit to add to what Mike said. It really was a great comprehensive summary of the century-old sign that was once on the roof of Plant 1. The intent is to move it about a mile south to the northwest corner of Firestone Parkway and West Wilbeth Road to the Bridgestone Advanced Tire Production Building. The 11-foot letters have about completed the restoration process. They're scheduled to be finished about mid-June. The neon lighting will be replaced with dimmable LED bulbs and mounted onto the skeletal steel frames that are very reminiscent of the historic mounting system that was once on the Plant 1 building. the sign will be oriented to face Firestone Parkway. And it's just, I think, a historic, just a very historic part of Akron's, industrial heritage, and I think is very important to the neighborhood, the Firestone neighborhood.
Thank you so much. Kara?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President and members of council. On behalf of Bridgestone, we're very excited to be able to keep race tire manufacturing in Akron, and very excited to keep this really iconic sign in Akron where it belongs. And just wanted to say that we do have that dimmer, as Jill said, so we'll be monitoring the lighting levels as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes our public hearing. Councilman Fusco?
Like to pull the committee to refer this item. Kamer,
Aye.
Baylor,
Aye.
Swirsky,
Aye.
and Samples.
Aye.
The committee would like to refer this item.
Okay, this item will be referred. That concludes our public hearings for this evening, so we'll move into our old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco,
Time on the agenda.
time will be granted. Public safety, Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report. We have a substitute that needs to be read in first.
The substitute offered as an amendment offered by Councilwoman Samples, Councilman Malik, Councilman Neal, and Councilwoman Amobian. Resolution supporting HR 1280, known as the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2021, and urging its passage by the U.S. Senate and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Madam President, we met today and discussed the substitute, and the committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. I don't know if one of the sponsors, Councilwoman Samples, did you have any comments?
I do. Thank you, Chairman Kamer. I just, for the record, wanted to read into the record. It states, on this day, May 10th, Dear Akron City Council, I encourage you to support the resolution supporting HR 1280, George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2021, by urging its passage in the U.S. Senate. Reforming our justice system begins with holding law enforcement accountable to the communities that they are sworn to protect. That is what the Justice and Policing Act takes important steps to do. The Congressional Black Caucus led the development of this legislation, and we introduced it last year to put action behind the cause for reform. We reintroduced the legislation this year to take meaningful steps to end unchecked misconduct and to hold police officers and departments accountable. This bill would demilitarize police departments, create a national police misconduct registry, ban chokeholds, and eliminate the use of no-knock warrants in drug cases. Additionally, this bill would reform the qualified immunity statute, eliminating major barriers for people looking to recover damages from police who have infringed on their constitutional rights. People all around our state and our country are calling for meaningful change in our justice system, and it is up to us to show them that we are listening and that we are taking action. We must learn from this moment, listen to the voices that have been silenced and ignored for far too long, and take action to end systematic racism and build a more just country that works for everyone. Thank you for your attention to this important issue. Sincerely, Sherrod Brown, United States Senator. With that, Madam President, I ask for its passage.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Samples. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Nay.
Fusco,
Aye.
Hamer,
Nay.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Nay.
Malik,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Homovian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Gursky.
aye,
The motion passes 10-3.
Housing and Neighborhood Development, Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. The report of the committee on item number 1 is for approval. Favorable report.
The committee's report is favorable. I'm not sure if there's any other comments at this time.
Madam Chair, could that be read in?
Sure, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I want to confirm on the one that we just did. Councilman Freeman,
Yes.
you voted nay.
Yes, ma'am.
You have 3 nays.
Councilman Fusco, you voted aye.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Item number 1 is ordinance amending and or supplementing Title 15 Land Usage, Chapter 150 Environmental Health Housing Code to add sections 150.51 and 150.52 to create legal defenses in an eviction matter for tenants who attempt to tender all past due rental payments to a landlord and capping the amount of reasonable late fees that a landlord may impose on a tenant and declaring an emergency.
Thank you so much. Councilman Fusco, do you have any further comments before we take the vote?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other comments at this time? Councilman Mallett?
Thank you. I think these 2 pieces of legislation that we're going to vote on are very important to addressing our rental prices. I want to thank all of the advocates and community groups that have advocated on this over the last year or so. I want to thank the mayor and his team for bringing this before us and really, leading the charge on this. And, I hope that this can be the jumping off point. We've heard from a lot of tenants. We've heard from a lot of advocates. We've heard from housing providers. It's clear that there needs to be a lot of conversation going forward. This is only one step. And so to really address the affordability, quality, and stability of our housing market, we're going to have to take many more steps. I hope starting with the rescue plan funds and going from there. So I hope this is all ongoing.
Thank you so much, Councilman Mallett. Councilman Freeman?
Yes, thank you. I'll probably be abstaining tonight. I'm not real clear on the ramifications. I do have one rental property and have been involved in the Section 8 program. So I'll be abstaining tonight, but I will say that if I were not abstaining, I would have cast a vote to the negative tonight. I'm just not sure that this is something that I understand equal housing, race, faith, creed. I think this may be outside of the realm, and I know that some would say that that's discriminatory, but there are individuals that just choose not to be a part of the Section 8 program because of a host of reasons. The legitimate reason is there's some encumbrances, there's some problems with the program that some landlords just don't want to deal with, but I will be abstaining tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Freeman. Councilwoman Connor?
I will be also abstaining tonight. My husband and I just acquired a rental property, so I will be abstaining also.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to say, of course, everyone knows I own rental property. So for that, I'll have to abstain. I do appreciate the dialogue. And I think I heard that we are going to move towards a tenant landlord council, because these issues they're not just straight and narrow. There's a lot of different variables that come into play. The thing I hope is that the dialogue continues so that we could create healthy legislation that addresses both sides of the coin. But unfortunately, I won't be able to vote because I'm a housing provider.
Thank you so much, Councilman Neal. I do see that we do have Mayor Horgan online with us.
Good evening. Hopefully you can hear me today. I apologize for the audio issues that I had earlier. Listen, I want to thank you for taking really a thoughtful approach to this as we brought this forward. And I don't think anybody will ever confuse the working of a piece of legislation as a work of art, because it sometimes does get passionate. It does get a little bit messy. But the end result, I think, in this particular instance, and to borrow a line from Robert Kennedy, is leadership of human purpose. And I think as the pandemic has exacerbated a lot of different issues, rent and the ability to stay somewhere and homelessness have really, I think, highlighted in not only Akron, but across the country and how we do that. So taking a thoughtful approach to being able to do that. And really, there are opinions on both sides, and we tried to listen to all of them, as Councilman at Large Fusco said today, about listening to that and getting to a certain point. So I appreciate your concerns, the feedback that you gave all of us to be able to make this program. And like with any piece of legislation or program, obviously it's a work in progress too. We're going to have to get feedback. And I think that Landlord Tenant Council, I wanted to do it last year. COVID put that off a little bit, but there are concerns from property owners that say, listen, we want, there's a meeting of the minds here at some particular point with that council from a really high level to be able to get to. And I think that is the very next thing up quickly on the agenda, to be able to convene that and listen to those concerns and get to a point where, both sides, are listening to each other, and we listen to property owners and we listen to renters about all of that. So I appreciate it. And I find myself agreeing with Mr. Neal again about that council, because I think it'd be a thoughtful way to move forward. So thank you for your consideration and the vote this evening.
Thank you so much, Mayor Horgan. The committee's report is favorable. Before we take the vote, I do see Councilwoman Amobian's hand.
I just want to make sure that last week I did propose that we consider the landowners, landlords who are interested and want to do this, but I do realize that people have a right to housing. So with that said, I want it to be known that my vote is yay, as long as we are doing the tenant landlord council, so that we can review all of the issues that will come forth. So I just want that to be part of the record. Thank you.
Committee's report is favorable. Roll call on item number 1.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Abstain.
Freeman,
Okay.
Fusco.
Aye.
Was that aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Mallet,
Aye.
Neal,
Abstain.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
There are 10 ayes and 3 abstentions.
Item number 2, Councilman Fusco.
For the committee is favorable, and we're asking for approval this evening.
Okay. The committee's report is favorable. Are there any comments on item number 2?
Comment.
Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. No, just wanted to thank council for all their patience. I want to thank Mayor Horgan for the announcement of the formation of the landlord tenant group. And we do get timely reports from the administration. The one thing, I was asked earlier today, what is it that changed or flipped your mind on this particular item here? And it's, there's 3 cities in Ohio that have passed similar legislation. Cincinnati did in 1980. Columbus did March 11th of this year, and Toledo did in October. But there's also 19 states that have done the same. But one of the striking things for me was, true confession time, I guess, my family started from somewhat humble beginnings. And it was stated from someone, I don't know who, but they said that, whenever a family, are able to move into a neighborhood that can help that family, help the young ones, and it gives them an opportunity for success, this could possibly open that up, this particular piece of legislation. So I'm hoping it's going to do that. We received a lot of information from from both sides, actually, hundreds of pages of information. So we can always come back. We've got to watch this as it goes through the process, and we can always come back and revisit. But looking forward to seeing how this works, and hopefully we'll approve it this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilman Fusco. Are there any other comments at this time? Councilwoman Amobian?
Yes, last week and I think week before, I guess I'm not really clear on how you conclude that it's discriminatory. And I realize, and I think the chair just mentioned that we will implement it, work with it, and see how it goes. Because I know we'll look at all things being equal, and the only thing that would stand out would be one person would have a voucher and one person will not. I think I'm talking about the right legislation. And based on that, they could allege discrimination if they're denied. And then I'm wondering, where will the teeth be in the program? I mean, who will? I know we have the Civil Rights Commission, and they're going to look at it. And I'm assuming the person could take it to fair housing and other places as well. I don't know, but I want us to certainly monitor it closely and see what we are experiencing, because I really want to understand, how do we know as clearly as possible that is discriminatory, there's a discriminatory action here. Thank you.
Yes, may I answer, Madam President?
Yes.
Yes, a complaint, if you will, would be forwarded to the Civil Rights Commission. And it would be investigated by one of the members, and they would then report back to the Civil Rights Commission, of which then there would be a hearing, if I understand, and I know Mr. Malik is somewhat well-versed on this, perhaps better than I, but then there would be, then they would basically hear both sides and then make a determination. And again, the Civil Rights Commission, they report all their activities to us on a timely basis. So I'm very confident that we're going to be able to kind of watch how this proceeds and how it works. And so that, again, I think is, we're just going to have to pay attention and watch and hope this is going to be helpful.
Thank you so much, Councilman Fusco. The committee's report is favorable. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Abstain.
Freeman,
Abstain?
Fusco,
Aye.
Hamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Neal,
Abstain.
Amobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Worski.
Aye.
Passes 10-0 with 3 abstentions.
That concludes our old business for this evening. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a lease agreement with Cascade Plaza Associates LLC to rent office space at 1 Cascade Plaza and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. The request of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. We're a conduit for the AMATs, the Metropolitan Transportation Organization, and they are, this is a lease for them that's going to save them money. They're asking that we pass this in a timely fashion because time is of the essence for them. There's going to be a cost reduction relative to this new lease, and it was mailed out to all of council, the actual lease itself, at 1:37 this afternoon. So in this particular case, we're asking for a timely passage this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor,
Aye.
Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Hamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Molly,
Aye.
Neal,
So I'm gonna have to abstain. I didn't read it. I apologize. Didn't see it this afternoon, so I'm abstaining.
Mobian,
Aye.
Samples,
Aye.
Somerville,
Aye.
Swirsky.
Aye.
This passes 12-0 with one abstention by Neal. Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the purchase of 125 West Ralston Avenue pursuant to the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of amended and restated real estate purchase and development agreement with High Street Associates LLC, providing for the sale and redevelopment of city-owned property, the leasing of a portion of the redeveloped property by the city, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Samples, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service after publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts for the construction of site improvements at Mason Park and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples,
Thank you, Madam President. Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Samples, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the purchase and application of asphaltic concrete, pavement removal, riser rings, microsurfacing, partial depth resurfacing, and preventative maintenance for various streets in the 2021 resurfacing program, including alternates, approving specifications therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6 was the substitute we already dealt with. Item number 7, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and if awarded, accept the Violence Against Women Act grant administered by the Office of Criminal Justice Services, authorizing the Director of Law to enter into an agreement with Oriana House Incorporated to implement the grant by continuing to fund 2 investigators for the domestic violence unit and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like to place this item on the consent agenda, please.
thank you. This item will be placed on the consent agenda. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We'll now move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. And our clerk will play in comments received for this evening.
Hello, Council and Mayor Horgan. My name is Elizabeth Kutcher. My address is 592 Hartsel Drive, Norton. I'm asking that you support the pay to stay source of income protection plan. Pass legislation to control the rent cap, enact a moratorium to put vacant land and abandoned properties into community controlled land trust, and that you please end the tax abatement. All these things are easily done and could help our city so very much. Our community is hurting right now, and we need the help of our council and you, Mayor Horgan, who has so much control over all of it, to help us out. We're not asking for a lot, just a few things. Support the pay to stay, source of income protection, pass the legislation for rent control cap, which is out of hand, enact a moratorium, put vacant and abandoned properties into community controlled land trust, and please end this tax abatement. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Dave Jakovic, 604 Stephens, Akron, Ohio, 44312. I'm calling in reference to the ordinances that are going on the ballot for vote regarding landlords and tenants. The first one is pay to stay. I don't no idea who thought of this one, but it's certainly not a good action for landlords. The tenants also have, through the Summit County now, an eviction that can be expunged for 2 years or better. So landlords cannot find out if a prospective tenant has been evicted. Also, the source of income as protected class. Regarding the voucher programs, I would appreciate it if all members of City Council would go through this voucher program step by step to find out what a lengthy process this is, and to find out afterwards that the tenant does not qualify. I have been an advocate of the voucher program for over 30 years and currently have a tenant on that situation. By the way, landlords do matter too. Thank you for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Mark Benson. I live at 385 Keith Avenue, Akron, Ohio, 44313. I'm calling just to tell you that I support passage of the George Floyd Policing Act and hope that our city will put that into effect. Thank you.
This is Jody Grassgreen, 699 Weber Avenue, Akron. I recently watched a couple of committee and council meetings, and it reinforced what I knew about grassroots and local politics and the importance of work at the local level for citizens, elected and appointed officials. We all have so very much to offer, and if we work together, can be a great force for change. It's clear that our issues of environmental degradation, clean air and water, access to green space, social justice, and historical ills, access to safe housing are all enmeshed and related. That we may be more effective by approaching our tragic income disparities and infant mortality rates and all of the above, not as separate and unrelated subjects assigned to different committees, but falling under a united mission statement. That way, whatever action is taken on any of these issues, the decision would have to support that statement or goal and raise everyone's boat. There must be a way to address evictions and provide safe, affordable housing and protect small business owners. Support the national policing reforms that protect citizens and respect law enforcement. Recognize that protecting the environment is not a white middle-class luxury, but a fundamental issue of immediate importance to all of us, especially to the next generations. Sometimes we hear without listening, though our intentions are good. All these issues seem like they only affect some people when in fact we all are diminished when some are denied access to basic needs. We all are brought down if we do not actively work to build up. Your work is difficult. We all must challenge ourselves and ask the hard questions even when made uncomfortable. Creative, new, and innovative thinking, doing things differently, is sometimes uncomfortable. My hope is that people of goodwill will and can come together. That would seem how we will elevate Akron. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. This is Andy Dene at 42 Casterton Avenue in Akron. I wanted to call and provide comment not just about the disturbing gunshots that happened on Saturday, but also just generally speaking, the behavior and what's called backlash from having bars adjacent to our homes on Casterton and Highland Square. The rise in bad behavior has been precipitous this summer or this spring so far. I'd encourage City Council to go on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night to the parking lot area behind Chipotle, the library, and the bars to really see the behavior that's happening back there. It's not just, debris and litter and broken glass, but it's drinking, people congregating, most likely people who are not even of age. I recently was walking my dog around 9:30 at night on a Saturday, saw people coming from the bar who were visibly intoxicated. They got into their car with the intent to drive. I went up to them and asked them in a polite manner not to drive and even offered to pay for an Uber myself. So, adding surveillance and video cameras is not enough. Allowing people to congregate, get intoxicated, and just demonstrate bad behavior is what's happening. So it needs behavioral change, not just surveillance video cameras. Be happy to discuss more. Be happy to host you on my porch on a Friday, Saturday evening if you'd like to see what's going on. And obviously the gunshots and the shooting on Saturday was beyond disturbing, especially for a family of 5 like ours. Again, this is Andy Dene at 42 Casterton Avenue in Akron.
Madam President and members of the Akron City Council, I am Reverend John Beatty, JOHN at 2047 Wyndham Road, zip 44313. I wish to share with you my thoughts on what happened to Mr. Hicks by Officer Turner. Snow is a perfect weapon of torture and even murder. It can choke a victim to death when packed into his or her nose and mouth. It leaves no cuts or bruises to the skin. It leaves no holes in the body. And when it does, it's psychological and physical damage. It melts and leaves no trace. What I saw in the picture on the front page of the Akron Beacon Journal more than a month ago was a white hand holding the face of a helpless black man whose eyes were closed in what I would describe as extreme distress, face down in the snow. Why it took the Akron Police Department so long to reveal what Officer Turner did to Mr. Hicks, I contend was not an aberration, but standard procedure to avoid accountability for police officers who do bad things to Black, brown, and poor Akron citizens who pay their salaries. Mayor Horrigan spoke part of the truth when he pronounced that Officer Turner disrespected Mr. Hicks. But the full truth is that Officer Turner terrorized Mr. Hicks by cramming his nose and mouth with snow, cutting off his airway, and forcing him to believe he was going to die. That's not just disrespect. That is a police officer asserting white supremacy upon a black citizen by torture until Mr. Hicks, a strong black man, was reduced to begging a white officer to not kill him by suffocation. The Akron Federation of Police Union added disrespect and blame to Mr. Hicks when Officer Turner's actions were described as deliberative reasonableness to afford Mr. Hicks a wake-up call to stop resisting. Mr. Hicks was already lying face down in the snow with his hands shackled behind his back. Officer Turner's actions were cruelty in the first degree. If Officer Turner's actions were deliberative reasonableness, then there is no action by any Akron police officer, no matter how cruel, that would be accountable by the Akron Police Department. It is past time for outside accountability. It is time for the city of Akron to lobby the Ohio State Legislature to pass a law for a state board of licensing for law enforcement professionals that will codify minimum standards of police conduct and will hold all law enforcement professionals to those standards. It is also past time to support the George Floyd Justice and Policing Law before the U.S. Senate for approval. In addition, I'm calling on the Akron City to
Hi, this is Nick Castiello, 41 Marshall Avenue, Ward 1. Good evening, City Council. I hope you decide to play my and my friends' comments tonight, unlike in prior weeks. I support the 2 tenant protection bills, but I strongly urge Council and the Mayor to do more. Folks have already been thrown out onto the streets while the city has sat on its hands during a deadly pandemic and a cold winter. We need rent control that caps rent at the median income of communities. We need an eviction moratorium immediately, and we need vacant and abandoned properties to be given to houseless and housing insecure folks. These will actually help solve the eviction and houseless crisis in Akron. I'd also like to bring up the recent discovery of a possible APD officer with a 3%er tattoo. I find it super alarming that an officer with potential ties to extremist militia organizations would be allowed to patrol any part of Akron. How was this guy hired? How many more folks in the APD have ties to extremist and white supremacist groups? We'd like to see this guy identified, immediately terminated, and his record investigated. We'd like to freeze on all APD hiring until a thorough investigation of hiring practices is complete. We'd also like for a substantial part of the APD budget, at least 50%, to be cut and redirected to community resources, programming, housing, and support services. Last, I urge Council not to put a dime of COVID COVID relief aid into the APD. For the last decade, the number of cops in the city has risen, the police budget has gotten more bloated, and yet the number of violent crimes have risen despite a stagnant population. More cops don't make us safer. Hiring more cops will not make this city safer and will not keep crime from happening. It hasn't worked in the past, so why keep trying? Communities have been gentrified, segregated, impoverished, and had their resources stripped away. Until you address those problems with adequate resources taken from the APD budget, none of you can really say you've done anything to stop crime and murders from happening in this city. Just the other day, one of our house's comrades was murdered in the park. None of y'all nor the mayor have said a thing. The city spends over $60 million on police, but can't even be bothered to clean up the poor soul's blood from the park during Akron's Park Week, no less. That's right. The city can't even be bothered to clean blood in a public park that people call their home. This is disgusting. This city should be ashamed of how it treats its most vulnerable. Sanction every single house's encampment immediately, defund the police, and start housing people now. Thanks and have a good night.
I'm Bill Nesbitt at our 330 1155 Diagonal Road, encouraging us to reestablish our drop-off mailbox, our original High Street location for our Akron Bureau of Public Utilities. And we need to reestablish our Akron Bureau at our original High Street location, reattain our historic YW Young Women's Christian Organization building. Thanks for your service. All have this great 2009. All enjoy additional Mother's Day week time. Have fun there. Thanks for that great service. Let's restore and add to the history. All have the greatest.
Hi, this is Fatima Rita, 330-958-4900 at 966. Calling in regards to the pay to stay. That should definitely be up to the decision of the property owner whether to accept late rent or not. I am very concerned because Akron has some of the cheapest rents around, and people need to learn how to pay rent and budget their money so that they can afford to stay places. I've seen too many people that have to buy cigarettes before they can pay their rent or whatever. Also, I believe that Section 8 should be allowed, but I believe it should not be a protected class. I have rented Section 8 for many years, and I believe they're just like anybody else. I am very concerned that if you mandate Section 8, how are you going to regulate issues on Section 8, such as how much a tenant should pay? The rent from Section 8 may be guaranteed, but the rent from the tenant is not guaranteed. Are we going to be able to evict tenants if they do not pay their parts? We cannot collect a water deposit. Tenants are not good at paying their damages if something happens, if they have no income. Also, if you need to do something to the house, you need to be able to get in there. And I've had several people not want me to go in and check on stuff. They move other people in, and I think sometimes they deny that they do that, but there are people there. I would like to see that source of income not be a protected class. I think it's important that a property owner determine how much income there is for a person to be able to pay for a place. I do get concerned that if you get 3 Social Security checks, that one person will pay and the other 2 may or may not pay. So it's important that the owners have their rights. We are a occupation, and we need to be paid for all. Thank you. Bye.
That concludes our public comments for this evening. I want to thank all of those who have participated. We'll now move to our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman.
2:30.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
One,
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco.
subject to call.
Public Service, Councilwoman Samples.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2:45.
Is there anything else coming before council? I do see Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you, Madam President. Just briefly, I want to thank, first off, my colleagues for taking the time to read through House Bill 1280 and getting a clear understanding of the importance for us to lead on this. And yes, it's only a resolution, but it shows leadership and courage. And yes, it's only a resolution, but it shows the United States Senate that we are paying attention. And it also shows our 2 U.S. senators that we support them in their efforts. I think sometimes we get caught up on concerns about who's going to support, who's going to vote. Do you have 7 votes? Do you have 9 votes? And I think sometimes when you have things that are very important, not just to us here in this community, but in this country, those are moments where you have to do a gut check and you got to do a heart check and examine what's there. Not to say that there's issues with us when it comes to our heart, but there's some issues that are matters of the heart, and this is one of them. And I appreciate you all for taking the time and reading through the 138 pages that are going to change, I do believe, the way policing is done in this country. And I think we all need that. I think we all want that. So I want to thank you all for your leadership on that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Samples. Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on my colleague's point, the resolution is one that where we can enact some of that here. So, just like the housing legislation we dealt with, this George Floyd legislation is a resolution is one that we can build on here in our community. It empowers the community to be engaged. I hope we look seriously at that. Did want to say on a note, hopefully I want folks to, I know this scares some people, but take time, make sure to look at your water bill. The city's sending out the Park and Rec concerts in the neighborhoods for the year. I've seen people post them on Facebook. I want to commend the administration for, it looks like, a full schedule on the concerts, our neighborhood concerts in our parks. It's one of the things that really brings a sense of community to our individual wards. And I know many people run the circuit. They see where the different concerts are and they go to the different wards to look at the circuits. That being said, I know that the social distancing will, even if you have your shots, will still be required. But I just want to, as we try to move back to some form of normality, the ability just to interact with our neighbors in something as healthy as good, fun, wholesome family entertainment is important. So again, hats off to the Park and Rec community. I forget whose ward kicks off first. They start in about 2 or 3 weeks. So look at your water bill because that information is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Councilman Fusco.
Yes. Excuse me. Thank you, President Somerville. Just in reference to the George Floyd resolution, there's always room for improvement within our police department, within Akron City Council. The thing of it is, though, I think we discovered as a city council, as a city, that our police department, Akron Police Department, is willing to look at itself. For several months, we met with APD and had a great exchange. I think everyone left there with a positive exchange that we had and some recommendations for improvement. I've always believed that our police department is honorable and is forward thinking. And it's been proven time and time again when it comes to the body worn cameras. The Akron led on that and became a best practice for many police departments throughout the country. They looked at the way we had done that and rolled it out. In terms of training, the cultural training, the de-escalation training, the CIT training that we've gone through. There's been bias-free training as well that the Akron Police Department has gone through as well. And also we are a member whenever a lot of the larger departments aren't members of the Ohio Collaborative, which a lot of the larger cities are not. And this, we are, and that looks at continuous improvement as well and best practices. I think it's important, especially now that we're advertising and we're working to bring in new personnel, that we stand with our Akron Police Department. And granted, there is always going to be a room for improvement. And I can see that this is, however it's going to look after it reaches the United States Senate. Hopefully it's going to make improvements all over the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Busco. Is there anything else coming before council at this time?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.